Good morning, children. Today we will do the origin of the earth. Now, children, it is very difficult to say when and how earth came into being. All right? But scientists have put forward some ideas and theories, that is what we call hypotheses, about the origin of the earth. Now, let us see one by one the theories put forward by various scholars and scientists. All right? Okay, the first one is Kant gaseous mass hypothesis. Hypothesis means the theories based on assumption. Now, Kant's full name is Professor Immanuel Kant. He was a learned person from Germany who presented his gaseous mass hypothesis in the year 1755. In this theory, he has talked about the origin of the earth and the solar system. All right, so he has told that how the earth and the solar system, origin of the earth and the solar system, the sun and the other nine planets. So he assumed that from the beginning only there was a cloud of gases. From the beginning only there was a cloud of gases. That is what we call the particles. All right, there was a cloud of gases over here. He gave the name to these particles or the cloud of gases as nebula. What name did he give? He gave the name as nebula. In the beginning, the particles were cold and motionless. These particles were cold and motionless. They were what? Cold and motionless. Motionless means at rest. All right. This was his first assumption. That in the beginning there were cloud of small particles, a cloud of gases. These small particles of gases, which he called nebula, it was cold and it was at rest. This was his first assumption. After that, he assumed and said that these particles started to collide. Collide meaning they started to collide with each other. They started colliding with each other. All right. So as they started colliding with each other, so from where they started to collide, so he gave the reason it is all because of what? Gravitational attraction. Because they got attracted and they started to collide with each other. So when they started to collide with each other, what was created? A friction was created. Friction. When you rub your hand, okay, that is what we call friction. And once your friction is created, what is produced? Heat is produced. As the heat is produced, that means the temperature increased. Temperature started to increase. Temperature increased. All right. So are you understanding, children? Okay. And the particles got into motion. These particles, okay, when the temperature, it was cold and motionless at rest, they started to collide because of gravitational force. Friction was created. Because of friction, heat was produced and temperature increased, and because of temperature increased, they got into motion. They got into motion. What motion? In a circular motion. So as they got into circular motion, a centrifugal force was created. That means the centrifugal force. What is centrifugal force now? Okay, centrifugal force meaning the force which moves outside from the interior. That means it tries to move outside from the interior. So the centrifugal force also got increased. Okay, so as the centrifugal force increased, the size of the particles also started to increase. Take for example, if you take a string of thread and tie a stone in it and you start moving it, it always moves in a circular motion. If you leave the string, the stone is thrown away. Okay, what makes a stone to go far away from you? Because that is a force. What is that force called? That is what we call the centrifugal force. All right. And we have another force, that is what we call the centripetal force. Centripetal meaning the force which moves inside from the exterior. Alright, that is what we call the centrifugal. Actually, these planets which we have today in their own position is all because of centripetal and centrifugal force. But over here, the centrifugal force exceeded the centripetal force. Alright, as because of that, so because of centrifugal force increase and centripetal force decreased, one of the ring got detached, okay, from this particles. Okay, so likewise 9 rings got detached, and these 9 rings later on we call it as the 9 planets, and the remaining nebula which was left over here, that formed the sun. All right, but please remember, today we have only 8 planets and we had 9 planets only till 2006. All right, that is how Kant assumed that the Earth is also one of the planet. It was formed because of these particles. All right, but he was criticized. Let's see his criticism. First criticism of Kant was, where did nebula come from? Where did these particles come from? The answer to the questions could not be given by Kant. So, he was criticized for that. Second thing is that he said particles were motionless, were at rest in the beginning, and they started to collide. Why? Because of gravitational attraction. But according to Newton's first law of motion, okay, a body remains at rest if until an external force has been applied. Okay, that is first law. A body remains at rest until an external force has been applied. So this went against Newton's law. So there was no external force. So how did they come in motion? So the second criticism was on the source of motion. Second criticism was on the source of motion. First criticism was particles. From where did the particles come? Particles come from source of motion. He could not show. Third one is, because of collision, friction was created. Because of friction, what happened? Heat was produced, temperature increased, and as the temperature increased, that they started moving in a circular manner. And because of collision, no circulatory motion can be created. Because of collision, no circulatory motion can be created. It is impossible. So he was criticized on these also. All right, circulatory motion cannot be created. And the fourth one is, it is said that as the temperature increased, the size of the nebula also increased. Also, so as the circular motion increased, the size also increased and the circular motion also increased. But this is totally against the law of mathematics, because if the size increases, we know that the speed decreases, and if the size decreases, the speed increases, which was not seen over here. So because of this, his theory was not accepted. All right, but why do we still study? Because it was the first attempt in the origin of the Earth. Thank you. That is all about the Kant gaseous mass hypothesis. Thank you so much.